Hi there, Jamie Keat here today at Teachers Tech. Hope you're having a great day today. Today I want to show you how to build formulas and functions in Microsoft Excel. So maybe you haven't used Microsoft Excel in a while, or maybe you're brand new. This video can get you up and running in no time in understanding functions and formulas. So let's get started today on Teachers Tech. I'm going to have 9 different topics in this video tutorial here today, and if you take a look at the description down below, you can see everything is time-stamped, and you can click on the number and it will take you to that part of the video. And also, if you're looking to learn more about Excel, take a look at the playlist, the link I'll put in the description, that has lots of different Excel tutorials, and also in the card up above. But let's get started with some basic formulas here today in this tutorial. So I'm just going to start with basic math formulas, and then I'll work into the functions and go over a few more things. But starting with entering a formula in this Excel, if you wanted to use it just as a basic calculator, if you go to a cell, click in the cell, and when you're starting a formula, you need to put the equal sign first. So I would put the equal sign in first, and then I can do a formula. So if I was going to go 5 plus 2, hit enter, I get 7. If I click back on the cell again, you can see the operation in the formula bar. If I go ahead and double click on the cell, it shows me. So if I wanted to adapt it, I could. Now I could use all the different operations this way to it, but I would suggest that you would use more of a cell reference, which I'm going to show you here, because if you have a big spreadsheet and you have all these different formulas in, you can't see what the constants are. I don't know that this is 5 plus 3 without clicking on it. But if I'm using cell references, I can see them here, and it will just make it a lot easier, and I can adapt them and change them a little faster too. So what I mean is by doing this. So if I want my answer here, I still start with the equal sign like so. Now a cell reference, I'm referencing that cell. So it's going to be C8, and I want this addition, and then C8 plus this one, C9, and I'm going to hit return. I get my answer as 7. Now I can see that the constants are these numbers, and I can quickly update. So if all of a sudden this turned to 3, it's going to update it over here. So I could go through all these different ones by putting the equal sign first, click on the cell reference, use your whatever operation you want, click on the other cell, and you're going to go through. So these are the different operations that you can use, from multiply to division to even the power one. So if I hit equals, select my cell, use the power above the 6, and then click my other one, so it'd be 5 to the power of 3. You can see it's 125, but then can be quickly changed at any time by entering in a different digit here. So that's just your basic math formulas in Excel, how to make sure that you're writing them. Like I said, use the cell reference. That's what I would recommend, but you can enter into any cell and just do the operations that way too. All right, so let's move over into functions now. And if you've never used functions before, or you can't remember, they can do a number of different things inside Microsoft Excel. They could be doing mathematical operations. They can be looking up values. They could be calculating date and time. And I'm going to be showing you some examples in these. But so for this first one right here, I'm just going to look at a very simple function, and that's the sum function. And I'm going to put my answer right here, and it's just going to simply add up the information that I have here. I could go back, if I was doing it to the previous method that I show you, I could just hit my equal sign, and I could click on and just hit each cell, adding up like so till I got to the last one, and then I could hit return and go through. But you can see that could take a while if the list was really large, and functions can really speed this up too. So I'm going to go back and just hit delete here, and I'm going to show you the function sum. So with a function, we still need to put our equal sign. So if I start with our equal sign, I'm going to start typing sum, and you can see if I knew what the formula was, I could write it and fill it in, but it will show me when this drop down comes up here. I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to pick sum, and it's going to say number 1, number 2. But what I like to do, I'm just going to highlight the range, and I'm going to hit enter. after that. And so you can see it's 170, a little bit quicker than hitting each one like I showed you before by cell reference. And if I click on this one, you can see what it did in the formula here. So I could write this formula just like this and it would give me the same information, but you can do it like that to kind of just speed things up. Now, if I move over here, I'm going to go and do it a little bit different. Make sure you're under your formula tab up top here and go over to auto sum. I can just click on auto sum like this and it's quickly going to grab that whole area. It kind of knows what it's looking for, the numbers, so it just knows that that's probably the information what I want, and I can hit return and it goes very quickly. Here's a shortcut for you. If I click in here and if I hit Alt and then I hit the equal sign together, it does the same thing. So the shortcuts can really speed up a lot of time using Excel once you get to know them too. There's other ones too. So if we want to be looking at other formulas, here's a simple one like count. If I go and hit the equal sign and then I start typing count, you can see it comes up. I'm going to double click on this, highlight my range that I want, and I'm just going to hit enter, and it does a count of 5. So it just went through and counted. Now it doesn't seem like much here because I only had 5 entries, but if you had a large amount of entries and you wanted to get a quick count of how many there would be, I could use the count function. Now let me show you a few different things that you can do with this. I'm just going to scroll down here a little bit. I just want to point out the status bar to you at the bottom in Excel. I'm just going to go ahead and highlight a bunch of cells here. So I'll highlight these right here, this range. Take a look, follow my mouse down, I'll get myself out of the way, and you can see if you want a quick idea what's happening in the amount and the place that you selected. Look, we have average, count, and sum. So you can quickly, even before you do a function, get an idea what's happening. Okay, so now what I wanted to show you was another thing that you can do with formulas such as sum. If I was going to go and type my sum in here, I'm just going to double click on this. I'm going to sum up this amount, and I could hit enter, it would sum it up. But what I want to do is I'm going to hit comma on it, and I'm going to add another amount to it. So I'm going to go and add 100 to it, and you can see this time it added this up and added 100 to it. And if you take a look at the formula up here, you can see that there was a comma 100. Now I still wouldn't suggest to do it that way. What I would do, and I'll go to a new spot to do this, if I put my equals sum, and I'll just go back to this sum over here, and I'll just highlight this section right through here, and this time I'm going to put comma and click on the cell. And it gets the same answer, but remember, if this cell changes to a different amount, this adjusts. The only way I can see this one is if I click into it or double click into it and take a look at the bar here. So I still would suggest using that cell reference in order to make things easier, so it's easier visually to work with. All right, let's look at a couple other functions, popular functions, and we'll go with average here. So I want to average these numbers, this range of numbers here. And like the other ways, you always have to start with equal. So I put my equal sign in here, and then I'm going to start typing average. So you can see I could double click on the average and fill it in the way I showed you the sum, or I could just keep adding. I could add my bracket. What's the number that I want to start with would be, or the cell. I could go ahead and type in D3 like so. I could put in a colon like this, and then I can go D6 and then finish it up, and it will give you my average. But like I said, what I like to do is if I hit my equals, start typing it in, I could use my average here, or I could just, the other thing, so I could use my average here real quickly, highlight like this, or I could use up in the auto sum right here. So if I click here, click drop down, hit average, and then it quickly does it that way too. So just looking at different ways you can do it quickly to get things like that. And we have a function like formula, where if I could go in here, I'll put my equal sign and I'll start typing median, and then I'll double click on this, and what my range is going to be through here, enter, it gives me my median as 50, and mode. So if I go ahead, put my equal sign in, notice that I get different ones. This mode down here would be for older ones. I'm going to use this one right here because I wanted to return the most frequently occurring. And then I'm going to go and highlight what I want. And you can see 50 because I have two different 50s in here. So just some of the more functions, some of the main ones that you are pretty common to use in Excel. If you're looking for either the smallest number or the largest number, the min-max functions do this very quickly. Again, imagine a lot longer list than these short ones that I have. But if we go ahead, click in here, let's go back to formulas and use our auto sum drop down here where it says min and max. You can see as I click on min, I get my answer back here. I can click in here, drop down, we have max, and go ahead and enter it in, and it quickly gives that number back. Do take a look. If min or max wasn't there, you could go more functions at any time, and you can type in here. So if I was looking for anything, I can type it in and go look through it here. But I'll talk about the wizard a little bit later on in this too, of how you can get more out of it. Let's talk a little bit about date and time. And I'm just going to use this right here and click in this spot, and I'm going to enter today's date. So I'll just write April 18th, hit enter, and it puts in today's date. Now, if I look at the way it's formatted, you can change that formatting. If I right click on this and go to format cells, you can see date, and it's formatted to that. So if you wanted it differently, you could pick a different one, but I'm just going to leave it like this for my purposes. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete this because I don't want to just put today's date. I want this to be able to change. When it's tomorrow, I want the spreadsheet to reflect tomorrow's date. And so I'm going to do that by adding a function. And if I use my equal sign to start with, I'm going to type today. And now I'm going to use this function, this today function. And you can see that there's a bracket open, and all I need to do is close it. Don't put anything in between, and hit return, and it gives me today's date. Now the difference is, even though it looks the same, tomorrow if I open my workbook, it would give that date. So it's always going to be changing based on what date. So it depends on what you want. If I would have just written out as today's date, like I did the first time, it wouldn't change. Now let's say my birthday was, I'm going to say November 17th. And I wanted to know the difference between how many days to my birthday. I can do a formula with date. So I could go use my equal sign, take this one, the one further out. I'm going to minus, subtract this one from this one, hit return, and it's 213 days from there. So I can do a simple formula like that using dates. So another thing I could do, let's say the bill is due on, and I'm just going to actually copy this spot right here. So I want to take it from today's date. It's going to just reflect that that cell, and I'm going to want it to add how many days I say in the grace period. So if I go plus, and it's whatever I'm going to put into here. So how this changes, if I know there's a grace period days, maybe for the bill, maybe 20 days, if I hit 20 in here, it's adding days to it, and you can see it went from April, now it's going to May based on the grace period that I added in there. Okay, so let's look at a little bit of time now. So there is a function again for time. So if I go ahead and put my equals in here, and I'm going to start typing now. And you can see there's now. And again, if I close it, I get today's time, or right, the moment right now is time. So think about that, could save you some time with inputting date. There are shortcuts to this too. So look at this. So we have control plus semicolon. If I hit those two together like so, it quickly enters the date in, and then you can see the time with control shift here, and the colon like so enters the time. So again, if you get to know those shortcuts, it can really save you some time when you're inputting values into your spreadsheets. So you can use formulas to combine cells. And let's say I have names in different columns, but I want to put them into one cell together. If I'm going to use this spot over here, this full name, I want their full name here. What I'm going to do is start with an equal sign, just like all the other things I've shown you. I'm going to click on the cell that I want, like this, and then I'm going to use the N symbol and click on the next one and hit enter. So as I do that, you can see it says Nancy Smith, but notice there's no space in between on it. And I want to correct that. And I can do a few different things. I'm going to go back into here. I'm going to double click into here and I'm just going to edit what I have. If I go back into this spot and I add a quotation mark here, and let's say we'll do a comma. If we want it, no, we'll do a space. We'll do a space like this, and then we'll do quotation again. And I put another end symbol like this. Notice now I have Nancy Smith with a space in between. So with that space, I could put a comma or whatever, and it would put that there. And I could go ahead and copy this down. So you can use a formula to combine cells and using the end. Just to point out as a little tip here, I really like Flash fill, and I have other tutorials on this too. But if anytime, no matter if you're writing how I'm writing it, and I'll write it backwards this time with a comma. Notice I'll write the first one. If I go down here, as soon as I start writing North Andy and it recognizes there's a pattern and I hit enter, it automatically fills it in. If it's in the column beside it, it will do this. So this was using a formula in this way, but I just wanted to point out Flash fill here for you too, because it's a quick way to do that type of thing too. When you're using if statements, what you're trying to do is make a logical comparison between conditions. So what I mean is if you say, if this is something, do this, or else do this. And let's see here, what I'm going to do is in this spot, if the word apple is here, it's going to say true. If the word apple isn't there, it's going to say false. And so let's set up this condition. So if I'm going to say equals, we start with an equals, it's going to be an if. And notice when we choose these, you just have to fill in, kind of copy what they do with the right brackets, commas, and everything. So what is it? So it's going to be this spot. If this spot right here equals, what's it going to equals? And since it's a word, I'm going to have to use quotation marks here, apple. So we'll type this like this. So I'll close my bracket now. Then what's going to happen here? Then it will be true, right? So I'll type true like so. But if not, it's going to be false. So I'll just write false. And then I'm going to close my bracket. And so right now you can see this is true because apple is in that spot. So what I'm going to do actually is just copy this formula down to here, and you can see it says false. So I just copied the formula down because what it did, it went over here into orange and checked. So if I look at the formula, it went over to C7 and then it said, are you apple? And then it said nope. So it went to this part and no, it's not true. It doesn't match, and it gave me back false. So let's try it in a different way using with a greater than with this 50 here. So what I want to have happen is when I change this number, I want it to change what it will say here. And I want it to either say less than 100 or greater than 100 based on whatever numbers entered at this spot. So I'm going to go to my if statement. So I'll say equals. I'll put my equals in and get my if. And I'm going to open this up. And it's going to be this spot. So what do I want to have happen in this spot? So I'm going to say, well, if this spot is less than 100, like so, what do I want to have happen? Well, I'm going to put a comma here, and you can see how it moves to the next one. Value if true. So if it's true, I want it to say something. So I'll say this is less than 100. Like so, and I'll just close this up here, put my comma, and notice it moves to the other one here. And then I'm going to go to my quotation mark again and say greater than 100 and end it like with another quotation mark, and I can close the bracket and hit enter. So at this point, it looked at this and say, if this is less than 100, say less than 100 here. So if I change this number now and change the condition here, so if I say 120, it's going to say greater than 100. So that's just a little intro in using if statements and how they work inside Microsoft Excel. Okay, so now I want to show you VLOOKUP, which is a super popular, very powerful function inside Microsoft Excel. How it works, and I'll just, before I show you how to set it up, I'll just show you it in action. In this case, I just have it set up in this cell right here. If I click in it, you can see up in the formula bar, it's all set up. And what it does, if I type, I'm going to type apples in this spot here. So I'll type apples, and you can see it returns the number in the next column. So I could have this long list, and I could tell it to search for something, and it will give me a corresponding column back to it. So what I'm going to do here is set it up for this spot here where it's going to search this information. So whatever I type in this spot, it will give me back the corresponding column to it. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put equals to start it, start typing VLOOKUP like so, and I'll just open this up, and I'm just going to follow this across. So what spot is it I'm going to pull from is this, whatever's written right here. So I'll click here, give it a comma, and now it moves to the next one. Well, what's the table or that I'm pulling it from? So I'm going to highlight both columns because I need both columns for this, and I'll give it comma again, a comma. Now this next one is asking, well, where do I want to, where's the next column? So when it's either number one, number two, you're going to put a number 2 in, because if I put number 1, it's just going to pull it from this column here, but I want it to pull it from here. So I'm going to put a number 2 and give it another comma. And is it true or false? So true is approximate match, or false an exact match. I want it to be an exact match, so I could type false, or I could just double click on this and close my bracket and hit enter. So let's type pork in here and see what happens. I get returned 10. So that's VLOOKUP. It's a super powerful Excel function, very popular. A lot of people use it. Check out my other tutorial on it if you want to dive deeper, but give that a try with some small tables. Conditional functions allow you to sum, average, count, max, min, based on a condition or criteria that you choose. So here it is in action. If I write a word here, one of these ones from the list, it's going to go through this side and add up all the ones that relate to it. So lemons, you can see 120. If I type in apples here, oops, I better type in the right spot. I'll go here and type apples. It changes to 150. So it went through, found the apples, the corresponding number, and then added them all up. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this and just create this SUMIF function. I'm going to hit the equals, type SUMIF, it's right here. I'm going to open this up. So what's the range that I wanted to go from? So this is the range that I choose at the beginning, hit comma. And what's the, now it's asking for the criteria. So it's kind of hidden this spot, but I know it's C17 and hit comma. And what's the sum range? So it's going to be out of this one. These are all the sum range, and I'm going to hit return at this one. And then I get my, my SUMIF function. So you can see again, if I change it to something else here, to oranges, since I typed that wrong, that didn't go through to anything. And then it adjusted here. So we have 60 for oranges, but you can also have multiple columns of this. So if I have SUMIFS and I'm going to create one for this one, it's going to be based on these two criteria here. So if I go here and type equals, this time it's going to be SUMIFS right here, and you just follow along. So what it's going to do is, so what's my sum range this time? It's going to be through this one, comma, criteria 1 range. So the range is the group of cells to it, comma, and what's the criteria 1 is right here. So that's going to be F17, comma. What's going to be my second criteria range will be this one, and then I can hit comma. And so my next one, it's hidden, but it's going to be G17 because that's just 1 over, and I'm all done there. I'll just close it up, hit enter. So now as I go through, you'd be able to see if I type apples and then go over here, it's 0 until I type Fuji, and then it will go through and add up all the Fuji, because you can see there's only the one up there, so you can have the multiple conditions there happening. And like I said, you can have things like count if it goes through, it can count, and all those different functions from average to max to min that I showed you earlier. You can add these conditional functions to it that you have the criteria that you can choose. So I'm just going to end this tutorial here today talking about the function wizard inside Microsoft Excel that can save you a lot of time if you're especially getting into more complex functions, and it can help you walk through what are the correct steps to complete the function. Now I'm just going to use this VLOOKUP example that we've done previously in this tutorial here, and my function's going to go in right here. I'm under the Formulas tab. I'm going to go ahead and insert function right here. Now I'm going to use VLOOKUP again, and I'm going to just go and fill out this information. So as I click in each one, so the lookup value will be, and it gives you an information down here what you can read. So is the value to be found in the first column? This is going to be what I'm looking up right here. So then I click in the next one, it shows me, tells me, gives me an idea what to go and grab. So I'm going to go grab the table and then the column index. So I click in here and it tells me that it's going to be the first column of value is table column 1. So I want to pull it out of number 2 over here. And then lastly, the range lookup is either going to be true or false. In this case, I'm going to be using false, and I can hit OK when I'm done. And as we go through and type these ones, it will adjust now accordingly to what I wanted. So that's using the wizard. It can really be helpful when you're trying to construct formulas that you're having some problems with. So I hope you like this tutorial today. Hopefully it comes in handy with your Excel skills, and can build on things that you maybe needed a refresher in, or maybe you're learning for the first time. Take a look at my other tutorials. I kind of dive deeper into a lot of these things. Thanks for watching this time on Teachers Tech. I'll see you next time with more tech tips and tutorials.